Hey everyone, this is Andrew Hess. And a while ago I was working on a project center and I had my own tasks. Today what I'm going to work on is I'm going to do more of that project management. I'm going to work on an issues and risk list. And we'll probably use this SharePoint list. It has my projects in here. But we're going to make another separate SharePoint list and maybe a PowerApp on top of that. Now, just because I do it one way doesn't mean you have to do it one way. You could put this in teams if you wanted. If you had a project manager team in your department, you could put that in a different team if you wanted. So yeah, let's create an issues and risk list in PowerApps. So what's the difference between an issue and risk in project management? And I'm thinking PMI here. So the key difference is an issue has occurred. And a risk is a potential issue that may or may not happen. And so a risk has an occurrence chance and an impact chance. And we'll get more into that. And we're going to create all this in SharePoint, I think. I think there's no reason to pull it into Dataverse for Teams or anywhere. You know, there's nothing wrong with having our projects in SharePoint. I don't feel like SharePoint's going to be too big for this Power App. So I feel like SharePoint's a good back end for this Power App, and that way we can edit in SharePoint or we can edit in the Power App. So here is my project list in SharePoint. I'm actually going to create a new list. So I'm going to go to Site Contents, and this is just the way I do it. You know, people do it many different ways, and they do a new list. I'm going to do a blank list right here, and I'm going to just call it Issues and Risks. Now, when you create a list in SharePoint, don't put spaces in there. I know you might want to put spaces in there. This is just from working with SharePoint a long time. You know, it used to be a big problem to have spaces in there, but this has become more of a habit for me. You know, don't put a space in the name of your list. So what you can do is you can create your list, right? And then you can come in here into list settings and go to name. And then add in, you know, whatever special characters or spaces that you want in your list. You know, there's just this back end naming structure that SharePoint does. And you notice it keeps our URL very simple. So that's just a tip that I've learned from many years of SharePoint. Don't add spaces in there until after the fact. All right, so we have some columns here. Now, some people will come in here, and this is the new way to do it. I'll say new, maybe it's, you know, a couple years old, a year old now, and you can add your fields in here. But for me, I always go into list settings and then I create my columns. So I'm going to create my columns here. Let's see, I'm going to create, we have title. I need project name so we can map them together. So I'm going to put project name in there. And then I'm going to create a column for owner. So this is the person who owns the risk, who's supposed to fix the risk. We're going to say that's a person or group. I'm going to create a field for impact. And this is going to be a number because we're going to do math behind it. You know, just because something is a number doesn't mean it should be a number. Normally, I choose numbers when I'm going to use it for math. And so I'm going to do that. I'm going to choose it, make it a number. I'm going to also make probability. And this one's also going to be a number because I'm going to do that as a number. And I'm going to do show as percentage. Should I do show as yeah, I'm going to do show as percentage here. And then we're going to have a field called score. And this is also going to be a number. And this one is only going to have about 2 decimal places tops. All right. And then we'll do risk details. And I'm going to remove the space in here also, just like I showed before. For this one, I'm going to do a multi-line text, and we'll have enhanced rich text here. And we'll have 2 more columns, and these are going to be yes or no. Mitigation plan. Do we have a way to mitigate this risk? This is yes or no. I mean, we could make this like a link to like a mitigation plan that leads us to it so we could write about it. Or we could even, you know, allow us to write. Maybe we'll do that. How about this is a multi-line text, enhanced rich text, mitigation plan, contingency plan, Hopefully I spelled that right. I'm going to do another contingency plan. And so now that I made my fields without the spaces, what I do is I come in here and I add the spaces in there. I know this is extra work, but for me, when you do these fields over and over and over and over again, and then you go into Power Automate or you go into somewhere and it tries to like make you write that underscore x00 whatever for a space, that drives me crazy. So I like to remove the spaces like that. Okay, so right now, oh, maybe we need type also, type. And this is going to be, we'll make it a choice field in PowerApps, but not in SharePoint. Oh, let's see, IR type. I'm going to say for issue risk type, so IR type. Type is a default field of SharePoint. Don't use type. So we have some fields here. So title will be the name of our title. Project name, that's how we're going to map it to our project list. Owner, impact, probability score, etc., etc. Now I'm going to go to PowerApps. And you could create it in here and integrate a Power App and do a custom form. But I'm going to create a whole new Power App and we're going to make this really awesome. All right, I'm creating a new Power App here. We're going to connect to 2 data sources. So it's going to be the SharePoint. I'm going to connect to that task list site, and we have 2 lists that I'm going to connect to. I'm going to connect to the project list and the issues and risks. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gallery. Now I'm just here to give you ideas. I'm not telling you exactly how to do this. So I'm just going to put up a gallery, and this is a list of all my projects. And this is normally what I do is I just do the one with the picture in it, and then I remove the picture. So these are all of our projects. I'm going to create a few more. You know, I really want this to be populated, so I'll get right back to you. I'm just going to create a bunch of projects. All right, so I just added, you know, a few more projects in there. I just made some things up. So now we have a list of projects. All right, so we're going to create a button. Let's do a button. And this is going to be a new risk. It could be new risk or issue, right? Or issue. Well, we'll just say new risk. We're just going to keep it as risks right now. All right, so I added a new button on there. It's called new risk. If you want to make an awesome button, I did have a previous video on that. You can, you know, make your own component buttons. Now this new button is going to take us to a new screen. We're just going to insert a form on here, and I'm going to connect it to my issues and risks. Now I just did a simple submit form just because it's simple and fast. Now you could make this really custom and make this awesome. Of course you can do that, etc. Okay, so for project name, this is what I'm going to do. It is a single line text in my list. What I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this. I'm going to unlock it first. I'm going to delete this. I'm going to insert a drop down. And this drop down is going to have a little bit more space. And we are going to have our project names in here. So I'm just going to say project list dot, I believe it's name, it's title. So project list dot title. And we're going to need a new form button. So here's new risk. I want this to be new risk, and when I click on this, I want it to do new form, form 1. All right, so just so when we come in here, I have a new form. Now, you'll notice I have all my projects in here. So all the projects that are active, you know, we probably could, you know, say, hey, only the projects that are not closed show up here. But we have a list of projects now. And I'm going to remove these red X's. It's just kind of saying, hey, I don't know where you want everything. Oh, the update property. So the update property, now that I removed it with the dropdown, I'm just going to drop down one.selected.title. Okay, so now we have impact probability, owner, score. I don't want the user to fill out score, so I'm going to hide that field. Risk details, contingency plan. This will be up here. Maybe we'll put this, I'm going to put this here, and this is my risk type. And we're going to have two options on this one. I'm going to update, add in drop down. Now you can make these choice fields in SharePoint if that's what you want to do. I just prefer to do it this way. I feel like I get more control when I do it this way. And for my items, I'm just going to say issue, risk or issue. And for these red X's, I'm just going to get, you can, fill this in, drop down 1 or drop down 2, and the update is drop down 2.selected.value. So we have two options, risk or issue. We can allow empty selections. We can say it's true. Well, no, we don't want empty selections. You got to pick if it's a risk or an issue, and risk will be default. The owner, yeah, we have that. And we're going to create a button that now saves. Submit form, form 1. That's all I did was change the on select to submit form. And it is going to save. And this new risk button will probably not be here. And we're going to need a back button. This is just going to navigate screen 1. And I almost always do fade. I don't know. That's just habit also. All right. So my new risk button is actually going to navigate to screen 2. And it's going to do a new form on form 1 also. And this should not be a comma. It should be a semicolon. All right, so now when I click on new risk, it goes in and it does a new form. Let's say we have a project like California structure. Metal is not strong enough. I'm just making things up. And we'll hit save. And on the form, I've done this tons of times too. On success, we're going to navigate back to screen 1 on a fade. So let's do another one, a new risk, California structure. Let's say building is too high. The owner, we can select somebody. The impact is, huge. 1 out of 10, the probability is low. Risk details, etc. All right, so we have a couple of risks in there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this gallery. Actually, I'm not going to remove the gallery. I will just replace it with the issues and risks here. So we have our issues and risk is now our data source. Now, what I'm going to do, hopefully I'm not too confusing. I have a lot to do here, so I am kind of pushing through. I really want to make something awesome within 20 minutes of this video. I'm going to create the labels at the top. All right, so now I'm going to go through the labels on the gallery. So I'm just copy pasting. For this one, it will be ThisItem.owner, I believe is the name of it. And this is going to be mitigation plan, but what I want to do is if it is blank, then yes, else it's not. So mitigation plan. Did I write anything on either one of them? Let's create one more under a new project. Let's do water development. Water is too acidic. Owner. Impact is huge, right? It's a 9. Probability is very low. Risk details. our details. Contingency plan, remove the acidic level from the water. Actually, that's the mitigation plan. Contingency is explain to the customer. And we'll hit save. Now you can see here that it is HTML text, so it's bringing in some things that we don't want. But what I want for mitigation plan is if this item.mitigation plan, when we're going to say is blank, I believe is blank will work. Is true. So if, so yes. Okay. So these all have mitigation plans. Now let's do contingency plan. Yes, yes, no, no. So this is now contingency. All right, so then let's create one more risk in here on a different project. Let's do New York phones. Phone lines are busy. Make people hang up. And we'll leave mitigation plan blank. That way we have some differences in there. Okay, so we can see here now that we have some no's and some yeses. Risk, project name, risk name, owner. All right, so now I want to change this to a, oh look, my probability in here. It's kind of funny, you know, so these are 20, but this is a 1 and a 2. So when I looked at my SharePoint, I noticed, you know, the probabilities here. So I went and fixed the probability in SharePoint. Let me, you know, force it to, you know, be a certain number. So in probability, so for this, I don't want it to take up the whole video, but what I do normally is I go to the save button and I put in some requirements for the save button to be in edit mode. And what I'm saying here is if the value is less than 1 and greater than 0, then the save button is edit, else is disabled. So I built in the logic in impact and probability that in order for you to save, in order for the save button to work, you have to have an impact between 1 and 10 and a probability in between 0 and 1. And I just kind of built that in there. I didn't want to spend a lot of time on that, but that's just forcing my user to put in the numbers that I want them to put in there. You could actually, now that I think about it, let's turn these into sliders. And not to spend the whole video on this, but we could easily, you know, change the impact to a slider. So we could say, you know, this equals slider1 dot value. So we could easily, you know, change this to have a slider in there also. You know, maybe you would like that. Let's see if I change this to 10, what happens? It doesn't change the slider, but you could easily make the slider take over that text property. So we could do the same thing on the probability. And so just to think for the slider, you know, you don't do decimal places here, but you could do a min value of 0 and 10 again, but then the probability is slider2 dot value. Is that slider2? Oh, that's slider1 underscore 1 divided by 10. So let's see. So we could easily do that also. Just some ideas in there. I don't want to spend the whole video on that. All right, so now I do want to do score. I do want to have score in here. So let's add score back to the form, but we're going to make it not visible. So score is actually, now the score is going to be the impact times the probability. So this is going to be text impact times dot value dot text, and we got to make sure this is a value also, times the value of text probability. And so that gives me 7.2. That's exactly what I would like to have. So let's do a new risk again on satellite expansion. The owner will be me. We'll put a probability in there. It gives me a score. The title is, you know, didn't go into orbit. It's probably a bigger risk than I'm thinking, so we'll raise it up a little bit. Probability is low, though. All right, and so it's calculating score for me, and I'm going to hide this. I'm just going to, you know, say, hey, it's not visible. It's still going to write. So now we have our projects, our impact, and our scores. Now for score, I want to change the color of the fill. Now I started off building this into the fill here, but I'm actually going to change that because I want to make a chart out of that, and it was not working correctly. So I'm actually going to come back into SharePoint. I'm going to create a column for red, yellow, green. I'm going to also create a column for cost. Of course, every risk has a cost, an estimated cost. And I'm just going to leave it as a currency field. I'll leave it as a currency field. All right, so we have 2 more fields in here, which are RYG for red, yellow, green, and then cost. On my form, I'm going to add these 2 fields in after refreshing my data source. Red, yellow, green, and cost. All right, so what I'm going to do here for red, yellow, green is I'm going to say if text score dot text, and we're going to make sure it's a value. If this is greater than 7, then the answer is red. If the value of text score dot text is less than 3, then we get a G for green. Else, it's a Y for yellow. All right, so let's play around with that. So now, as we have impact, we can see that the colors are changing. So we can see if I get higher impact, and if I lower the probability, you can see it will change too. So we're actually changing the colors here. I like that. These 2 fields are going to be not visible. But for now, I'm going to leave that one as yellow. And I'm going to fix this for all my fields in SharePoint too. So we just created a new line item. This one is me again. So I'm actually going to build the formula note. If this item RYG equals R, then we get a red. If it's equal to G, then we get a green. Else, RGBA, we get a yellow, and maybe a little brighter yellow than that ugly mustard yellow. Okay, so now I've built it into that field, and we can see I put that field in here just to clarify. Oh, that's the owner field. We can see I put that field right in here. So green, green, red, yellow. So I kind of built that in there, but we're going to hide that, and we're just going to use that for the score here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a pie chart. Some people don't like pie charts. I like pie charts. I'm going to use a pie chart because it's very simple. All we're going to do is say in this pie chart, the items will be the issues and risks. All right, so that didn't work. What it needs is it needs a value in there. I wonder if I could do that, if I can do series. No, that's not going to work. What we're going to do, we're going to create some collections here. So on the on-screen one, we're going to create a collection here. And we're going to say ForAll, issues and risks. But for the issues and risks, we want to filter. And we want to filter on when RYG is equal to red. We want to collect red title. See if I did that correctly. What am I missing here? With a parentheses here, we're going to collect red title. I'm going to do the same thing, except for I'm going to do yellow. And then I'm going to do green. And then I'm going to make sure all of these are clear before I do that. So we can't do a ClearCollect right here because you can't ClearCollect in a ForAll, but we can concurrent clear. All right, so we're going to concurrently clear all of those. Then we're going to ClearCollect RYG, that's the name of our collection. CountRows of red, CountRows of yellow, CountRows of green. All right, so now we actually have a value in there. So if I go back, we've now created a collection. Let's just take a look at that collection. So if we go to collection, we can see I collected all the greens. I collected my one yellow, my one red. My RYG is 115. So 1 red, 5 green, 1 yellow. Now let's put that in here. So the RYG, so we have 115. So 5, 1, 1. Now I'm going to change the color of these pie charts. So I'm going to go to the item color set here. All right, so we have our risk score. I like the way that looks. So we get a nice little dashboard of all of our risk. We have 5 in the green, 1 red, and 2 yellow. So let's keep adding on to this. I want to see more here. I would like to see maybe an average of risk score. Let's see if we can do that. I'd like to see an average of risk score. So to find the sum, I'm not going to go do the sum of the collection or the sum of the list. I'm going to do the sum of the gallery. So Gallery1.AllItems of the score. So that's all of them divided by CountRows of Gallery1.AllItems. So we're saying, okay, find the sum of all the scores and then divide them by the number of scores. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I believe that's correct. So now I have these two KPI, we can call them. Let me put in some costs of my risks. So I added that cost field in here. All right, so I have some costs in there. So I'm going to go back to my PowerApp and I'm going to refresh the data source. So now all of my columns have a cost. Let's show total cost now in here. So insert, we'll put in the cost in here also. So we have space for it in here with contingency and mitigation plan. Let's put in cost. All right, and so now the total cost is going to be the sum of Gallery1.AllItems.cost or comma cost. And to make it look like more of a dollar sign, what we can actually do is we can say text this, and then I'm just going to paste it in there. I'll do that on the cost also. So text this cost, and I could put this formula in the properties of the video if you like, but now we actually have a total cost, an average risk score. Let's see, what else do we have? We have a risk score here. We can see all of our risks. All right, so let me add a little bit more. Maybe I want to show and insert a another chart, and let's do a column chart. And this column chart, we're going to delete the legend here. We are going to show first we're going to connect to our items property. And it looks like it's showing labels. We want title. Make sure you can see all this. So title and cost. So in the items property, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say first in sort issues and risks by cost, descending, well, the top 3. So we have, some of the chart in here. Maybe we don't like those colors. Maybe we want to show, so we have some different colors in there. I feel like we have the start of a nice risk issue. Another thing that we want to create would be a column in SharePoint. Finally, I was thinking about this, is we need a column that says if complete or not. If the risk is over, is done with, I'll just make it a single line text. So now that we have this nice little risk assessment form, you could easily build a filter on that complete field that I added, the complete field. You could say when it's not complete, show these fields. When it is complete, show which fields are still have a risk or an issue. So hopefully this was not too confusing. I know it was a mess at first, but in the end, this is a nice Power App to monitor your risks of your project. I think my next goal would be to be able to, put the risks in a risk matrix, a 5x5 matrix. I think if we could, make an ID of our risks and then build out this matrix, I feel like that's the next Power App to go on after this. So I'm going to see if I can make that possible. It may take me a little bit to figure out, but I would really like to be able to have our risks in the matrix here and have a Power App where it just shows that in a nice screen. I think that would be really awesome. And if I can do that, I'm going to do that hopefully in my next video or so. And I just want to say thank you for watching. Thank you for your support. And I'll see you next time. My name is Andrew Hess. Please like and subscribe if you like my content. And I'll see you next time.